Hello, everybody. How are you? Thanks for joining me here this morning. Today, we are going to be talking about sales step 4 of 8 in our continuing series sponsored by HESPV. HESPV does solar panels. They do solar panels, racking, and equipment for the solar industry. And they're our sponsor for this sales series because they wanted to bring this kind of information to their dealers. So thank you to HES. Today we're going to be talking, as I said, about presenting. It's step 4 of 8. There's a whole process that we need to follow when we are selling our services, whether it's to homeowners or to commercial accounts. It's really important we follow a process. That process gives us consistency. And when you don't have that consistency, sales feels random. Now let me back up one tiny step and remind you that selling is something you do to somebody. What we're actually doing here, especially in this training series and in my background, as a professional salesperson and business owner, is that I've always been in the consultative selling. I've always taken the consultative selling approach, and I hope you do as well. Selling something you do to somebody, helping people buy, is when you're really helping them with their best solution. So in the case of solar or roofing or something like that, you want to find out why the person that you're talking to needs what you're offering. And if they don't need it, they're not a good prospect. But if they do need it, I am the best solution they could possibly have because I know I stand behind everything I do and I act with confidence and honor and integrity. And so if they're out there looking for somebody, let's say, to do their solar panel installation or roofing or painting their home or doing stamped concrete, whatever the trade is, I'm the best option. And so I want to help them work with me as the best option. So in order to do that, there's a 7-step series. It's very well defined. It's not made up by me. I didn't invent the 7-step sales process. It has been forged in fire and hammered hard by millions of professional salespeople all around the world, trying to find ways to really lay out our discussion with people in a reasonable, logical way that's respectful, that helps people understand that what we're doing is here to help them. And so right now we're on step number 4, which is presenting. Now you might think, especially if you've come in just now in the series, presenting, Don, what are you talking about? Isn't that the whole system? No, it's not. And if you think that's the whole system, that's why you're losing deals right now. That's why you're losing the deals you should be winning. Presenting is step 4. And if you don't know the other stages, go back in the series and look and see where we are in the process. Let me just run over what all the stages are for you again. I've got my notes here, I've got notes here, and I've got notes here, so that I make sure I'm on mark and on time with everything we need. Here are the 7 steps to the selling process. Step number 1 is prospecting. That's finding people who might be interested in what we do, what we make, what we sell, what we install, what we repair, what we maintain, etc. So prospecting is step 1. Step 2 is qualifying. That's the stage where we're asking a lot of really good questions, very simple questions, open-ended questions, and then we're listening very carefully for the answer that that person or that couple, that buying group is making back to us. So that's step 2. Step 3 is actually setting the appointment. So setting the appointment is really important because if we don't do this right, then the whole process starts to fall apart right here. And you can't get in a lot of trouble. What happens is nothing. That's a lot of trouble when you're trying to sell what you need to sell and keep your business growing. So stage 3 is appointment setting. If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch that one. And now we're at presenting, which is step 4. Presenting is when we are sitting down across the table with the decision makers. In this case, let's assume that we're talking to a couple and they want to do solar panel installation or roofing installation at their home. And I'm with the couple and we're actually in what you would call the sales meeting. Just so you know where we are, if this is step 4, step number 5 is closing. Now, step number 5 is actually inside the presenting stage, but you'll see what I do today. We're always closing. We're always asking the closing questions inside the presentation so that closing is not a hard thing. You know, I've been doing this for many, many years, almost, well, not almost 20 years, 20 years. I've trained a lot of people in sales, in professional sales, and how to be a consultative, honorable, ethical salesperson. Because they exist. They're all over the place. But these are people who take their trade seriously. They truly believe that they're the best solution. They know that they provide the highest quality and the best service, and so they go out there and they don't have to have tricks. They just have to present their situation, what they do, with like logic, with clear logic, obviously inside the system. And those people know that it can be stressful on the homeowner in this case when we ask the hard closing question. That's why you see lots of books about here's an awesome closing line. Here's something you could say to really close the deal, or that old-fashioned strategy where you like get people to say yes 5 times and then they'll say yes when you ask them for the deal. Mike, that stuff doesn't work. I mean, maybe for, I don't know, timeshare people or something, but that's not what we're doing here. So we are going to have a conversation in the presentation that has lots of forward-looking statements that talk about when we're going to work together. That's the close. And so when it comes time to actually decide to work together, it's a non-issue. The question really becomes, do you want to start Tuesday or Wednesday? Should we have the truck parked on the left side of the driveway, or do you want them to pull right up to the garage? Where are we going to be unloading the equipment? That's the closing question. So we'll get to closing. That's step 5. Step 6 is objection handling. Objection handling is a stage on its own, and the reason it's a stage on its own is because it needs to have its own flowchart. It's got its own process. It has its own scripts. I'm going to be going through that here in future episodes, so stay tuned. And then there's the follow-up stage. Now, important to understand, if you get into the follow-up stage, it means you didn't get the sale at the beginning. That's fine, but it's not good because it means you didn't get the deal. And so your chance of getting that deal drops dramatically because you didn't get the deal in the initial presentation. So we want to avoid follow-up wherever possible. But if we do go into follow-up, there are some things we can do to bolt it down, what we call it bolting it down, so that you get the most opportunity out of every deal you're in front of. Okay, so those are the 7 steps. Let me go back to my sheet here for a second to make sure I'm hitting all the high points in stage 4. So presenting. So let's get into it now. So we're in step 4. Our goal here, our best outcome in presenting, is to get the deal. Now, just a quick tip. Make sure you have with you this, which is a pen, or your tablet device, if that's what you sign on, get people to sign on, and the contract ready. I can't tell you how many times I've taken people out that I've been training with. We go and meet a homeowner, and we're going to present something to them. Let's say it's painting services. So we sit down with the homeowner, we talk about all the options, we talk about our service, our crew, our guarantees, all the things that we want to help them with. We find out from them why they want the house painted, when it's important that we're on site, when they want us off site. All of those things are important. We get to the point to say, yes, we're going to do the deal, and I turn to the salesperson, who I have said, I'll come out and help you, and the salesperson goes, yeah, I didn't bring paperwork. What are you doing? You didn't bring paperwork? That's the reason we're coming out. You bring the paperwork with you. Bring a pen. And if you're doing it on a mobile device, make sure that thing is working and charged, because now you've added unnecessary steps to the process. There's only 7 steps. Don't add more. You just stay with these ones. But make sure you have everything at your fingertips. Make sure your calendar is ready on your phone so that you can book and block schedule. Make sure you have pictures of what your crew looks like, what a typical job site looks like. Make sure you have, if you have a contractor's license, make sure you have that with you so that the license number is available. Make sure you understand what the social media feedback has been for you online, because they might ask you questions about the social media feedback. I heard somebody said you guys showed up late on this date here and they weren't happy because you let their dog out, and things that are important to them are going to come up from those comments. You want to know those so you're able to answer them. Don't get flustered. It's just, this is a conversation where they want to check and see that you're the best person to do the job for them. Now, there is a script that goes along with presenting, and you want to make sure that you're working within the script. Now, the script starts in a very specific way. You're going to sit down with people at the table. In previous steps, we talked about making sure all decision makers are there. Okay, so making sure, let's assume here that we're talking to a couple that owns a home, right? So it's a husband and a wife, or the family unit, however it is, and both of the decision makers are there and sitting down and uninterrupted. I won't go into that too much here, but I cannot stress the importance enough. It's definitely worth you watching the video just before this one to talk about the qualifying stage to make sure we've got everybody there, okay? So you have everybody there, and then you follow the proven process to take them through the deal. So your sales process needs to be scripted. The very first thing I want you to do is sit down with the couple, have a little bit of chit chat, talk about the weather, talk about sports, whatever sports they're on, talk about what they want to talk about just for a few minutes, and then say, would you mind taking me on a tour? Now, they're going to say yes, because it's their home. It's what they know. I want to put the power back in their hands. And actually, I want to see the job site. I want to see what they need, but I also want to understand through their eyes why this needs to be done. Because if I'm selling roofing, I can come in here and I can talk about our roofing and these shingles and these interlocking tabs and the underlay and the quality of my guys and how long we've been on site and our new equipment and our guarantee. None of that has anything to do with why they want a roof. Why do they want a solar panel installation? Why do they want to have off-grid power? Why? So let's now say they are it is a solar application here. So you have, you're one of the solar dealers for HES, let's say, and you're doing a tour of somebody's home and they want to put in solar. So you sit down, have a little bit of chit chat, say, hey, can you take me for a tour? They're like, absolutely. So they walk you through their house and they show you things, kids, pictures. This is a vase I made at community college class. Oh, this is our entryway. We really need to fix that too. They're walking around and you say, well, where do you think the solar is going to go? And they're like, oh, out here. And you walk into a backyard that's really just a jumble of junk. It's a big backyard, but it's not even nicely landscaped. But there's a new garage there. And you say, well, what are we doing the solar panels for? And they say, well, we're going to put in a pool. And we understand that the power is really expensive for that. So what we're thinking is solar panels might go on the garage. And then when we build the pool, we're able to heat it by using the electricity from the sun. Fantastic. Why do you want a pool? Why is a pool important to you? See, once I find out what they're actually trying to achieve, we can have an intelligent conversation about how my solution is going to help them with that, right? If I just sit down and start talking about me, it has nothing to do with them. What people care about is themselves. You only care about yourself. That's why you're watching this video. Totally cool. I only care about myself, which is why I'm making this video. Totally cool. We all get that. They only care about themselves and their need, their problem, their opportunity, whatever they're trying to do, make, achieve, whatever they want to have. So we need to understand that. So that tour, absolutely critical. Doing that tour and listening carefully will help you understand more about the deal than anybody else. And I can guarantee you this, that little trick, that little go on a tour is something most salespeople don't do. They only talk about our product features and benefits, but they don't actually talk about what's in it for me. They don't get into the heart of what the person needs. And that's really what you've got to do here. Take me on a tour. Let's switch gears for a second. You're still in front of a homeowner, but now you do home renovations. And you're in there talking to a couple who wants a bathroom renovation. And you go sit down, do your chit chat, and then say, hey, let's go for a tour. They tour you through the house. And you say, oh, is this the bathroom you want to renovate? And they say, yes. Okay, well, tell me why. This bathroom is functional. Maybe it's avocado green. It's from the 70s. It looks like it's from that 70s show. It's got carpet on the floor of the bathroom. Ooh, right? You remember those ones? But you have to ask them the question, why do you want to change this bathroom? It's functional. You don't have to say it looks nice if it doesn't look nice. Just say it's functional, it works. Why do you want to change it? It's time to update it. As you can see, it's pretty dated. Yeah, it's dated, but tell me more about why you choose now to update it. Well, we really just think it's about time that we got on that. This project's been lagging over us for a long time. Okay, so that I understand, why is now important? Because I've been in business for 20 years as a contractor. As a matter of fact, you see my van in the neighborhood all the time. What happened in you guys' life in the last 24 hours to make you decide that now's the time to do the bathroom? That silence is intentional. Let them talk. And this is what you're going to hear. Well, my mother-in-law is coming, and she's going to live in our basement suite for a while. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, when is she showing up? When does this have to be done by? Do you see how we've now taken this sale? It's not a sale anymore. Now we're part of the solution. We're helping them buy the right solution. The solution to the problem they have? Mother-in-law coming to live, right? They want her to have a nice clean suite. They want her to have an updated bathroom. They're a little bit embarrassed that it's avocado green and shag rug on the floor, all of those things. By the way, if any mother-in-laws are actually watching this episode, I apologize. It was just a funny example. But I hope your in-laws, your children, are making you a new bathroom. So anyways, the goal of this step is to make sure you have a script. You start off sitting down with the decision makers. That's the first thing. The second thing you do is I want you to go for a tour of the property, find out the needs really, really well, then come back and sit down. Sit down at the table. Important decisions are made sitting down. They're not made standing up. They're made sitting down with everybody around the table. A business meeting is a business meeting. The people you're sitting with might not be used to having business meetings, depending on what they do for a living. And so you have to show them how the process works with you. And the goal of presenting is not just to sell the deal, but to show this couple how you work, that you have that you follow a process, that you follow steps. And you can even say in the presentation, you can say, Mr. and Mrs. Jones or Smith or Chang, I hope you don't mind, but I follow a system when I sit down to talk to people to make sure I hit all of the high points, and I give you a chance to ask me any questions that might be important to you, and that I also have a chance to ask questions that are really important to us. Is it okay if we just follow the same process I've been following for years? And they'll say, yeah. And then you say, it's actually something that I learned from being a contractor, because every time I've done a bathroom renovation, every time I've done a roof, every time I've done a solar panel installation, the best jobs are the jobs where we follow our process. The jobs where we don't follow our process are the times that things go off the rails. You see what I did there? So I'm reinforcing with them that me and my team have a process that we follow, and I'd like to show them my process so they understand how we work, right? Very different than the salesperson who's going to come in after you, because of course this family's going to get 3 quotes. Yeah, that's what they always say. And that salesperson is going to come in and say, yeah, solar panel, going to put it there. Solar roof, yeah, we'll put roof racking there. Should be no problem. We can upgrade power to the panel, etc. They're going to write something on the back of their business card and hand it to Mr. and Mrs. Jones. What the heck? You're going to absolutely crush that deal. By the way, as you know, the third contractor is not even going to show up. So you've got the deal just by showing up. But you have a chance to really bolt down this deal by doing it right. So you show them the process. So step 1, sit down. Step 2, go for a tour. Step 3, let them know you have a process and that you're going to follow the process in this meeting. Also let them know right now that at the end of today's meeting, I'm going to ask you to make a decision. It might feel awkward to you at first. It certainly felt awkward to me to ask that question up front or to make that statement, but it's something I have to do, right? Let them know right up front. At the end of today, I'm going to ask you to make a decision. There's only 3 decisions we can make. There's yes, no, and maybe. I'd really like to take maybe off the table. And the reason for that is we're busy. I can deal with yes, because we'll just get you on the calendar. I can deal with no, because we'll just stop the conversation. But I can't do anything with maybe. That doesn't work for either you or me. So at the end of today, it's okay to say no. No big deal. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with yes. I'd love to work with you guys. I see the problem that you have, and I know your mother-in-law needs to be moved in here in 6 weeks. My goodness, it's going to take us a week and a half, maybe 3 weeks just to get a building permit. So we really are on a time crunch. But I'm happy with a yes. I'm happy with a no, but I can't do anything with a maybe. Is it okay if I ask right now that at the end of today's meeting or at any point during this, you guys just say yes or no, but never maybe? And they'll go, okay, we can do that. So there you go. You've just asked. You said, all I want is a yes or no at the end of today or at some point. And so that lays out a really professional outcome for the people. You can do this, by the way, the same thing here if you're doing commercial work. So tenant improvements or building furniture, etc. You can ask for yeses and nos and not maybes. Just change your language slightly for each situation. But it's a really good way to show that you're a professional and you love what you do and you're doing it right. All right, what else have we got here? So the other thing I want to remind you of is something called, there's 4 ingredients to any sale. Those 4 ingredients are budget, need, timing, and trust. So you have to ask questions that talk about the person's or the couple's budget, so how much money they have, what their need is, why they need it. That's the questions we ask about, oh, your mother-in-law's moving in, or the pool is being built, whatever the need is, right? So we've got budget questions, we've got need questions, we have timing questions, why you need this now. And by the way, I'll ask questions inside timing and say, why are you doing this now? Why don't you wait till next year? And they'll answer. And I'll say, well, why didn't you do it last year? And they'll answer. And inside those answers, I'm going to find out all about budget, all about need, all about timing, all about trust. So all of these questions all merge together really nicely because I'm having a nice conversation with these people. I really want to understand. From my side, technically in my head, I have to make sure I'm asking questions about budget, questions about why they need this, questions about timing, and questions about trust. Can you trust me? How do you know me? Can I trust you? Have you dealt with other contractors before? If you want to know what kind of client this is going to be, you should ask these trust questions. So trust goes both ways, right? I want to trust that you're a homeowner I can come in and do work with my best crew, and that you're going to pay me for that work. Let's not dance around this. I'm going to do work for you, but you're going to pay me for that work, and that's the nature of our relationship. If I come in and do great work and you don't pay me, that's a breakdown. If I come in and do bad work, I don't expect to get paid because I'm an honest and ethical contractor, right? So it's okay to talk about the payment. So one of the questions that's really good to ask when you want to start to develop trust and understand whether I should trust this couple is to say, have you ever hired a contractor before? Yes, no. How did that go? If they say, no, we've never hired a contractor before, then say, well, has anybody else in your family ever hired a contractor? What was their experience like? And they'll say, oh, my parents have this contractor. They use him all the time. His name is Doug. They call him up. He comes over. He's great. I wish we had a guy like that. Great. Or they might say, oh, we had this guy named Doug. We had broken concrete on our front walk. Oh my God, he showed up. His truck was really loud, and he had his dog that poor dog in the truck. And I can't believe he brought his dog on site. It scared our cat. And okay, on and on they go about Doug, and then we ended up taking him to small claims court because he put some material on our grass, and that material, I think it killed our grass, and I had all those plants in there. So we took him to small claims court because I needed that $720 back. I mean, we had paid a lot of money for that shrubbery. And you're like, oh, I don't know that I want this client. As a matter of fact, I don't. I'm going to end the meeting. I don't want that client. They sound high maintenance. Go get another client. Go do better marketing, right? So you want to ask questions about budget, need, timing, and trust. For yourself, if you really want to bolt down getting clients, they need to trust you as well. And so there are 3 trust videos that you need to shoot and you need to have on your website or on your social media pages, excuse me, so that people can see them. And those trust videos show people that you're doing things right now in this time. Right now, as I'm recording this, it's the time of the pandemic. Eventually this will all pass, but life probably won't be the same as it was beforehand. So you're going to need these trust videos. The trust videos are very simple. It's a simple video that you shoot with your mobile phone, post it to social media or your website, and it shows how you clean your truck and your equipment, what it looks like in your shop, and there's some other suggestions. You can find out lots of that stuff on my website. It's called the 3 trust videos you must shoot in this time of instability. So go ahead and look at those. Okay. Want to tell you one other thing here, and it's the use of props, believe it or not. So there's a story of props. When my last company, I was business partners with a gentleman named Brian Tracy. Now, Brian Tracy is a really well-known author if you study sales and sales improvement, business and business improvement. Brian's been around for many, many, many years, and you guys would have seen him for a long time if you've been studying business as well. So I was traveling Australia with Brian a couple of years ago, and we were doing a sales presentation. We were giving out sales awards in Australia to the newspaper in Australia, which is called The Australian. That's the name of the newspaper throughout all Australia. And so we were doing their sales awards. So we would fly from city to city doing their sales awards. And Brian had already been there in the years prior doing this sales thing, and I was with him on this particular year. So I guess in one of the cities we're in, he had given a prize out to somebody, and the guy was winning again the next year. And they sold safety glass. So Brian told me the story that the first year he called the guy on stage, the winner, and said, "Hey, tell us how you outsell everybody else, because like any group of salespeople, there's a whole bunch of people just struggling to get by, there's 3 or 4 people who are doing really well, and then that last person is just miles ahead of everybody else. And why is that? So he called the guy on stage and said, well, tell us how you outsell everybody else in the company to clearly win the sales award. And the guy's kind of shy and humble. He goes, well, I just, I make my calls, I do my appointments, and when I sit in front of people, I really show them how the product works. And so Brian says, well, how does the product work? And he goes, well, it's safety glass. So I bring a hammer with me and a piece of glass, and while I'm sitting there across the desk from them, I smash the glass with the hammer, and they can see that it doesn't break, and I get the order. And everybody in the crowd, of course, claps. Wonderful, it's wonderful. And this guy crushes it in sales. Everybody else is down here, and their sales results, he's way up here. So now I'm there at the second year, and this guy wins again. And so I'm there when Brian brings him on stage. And Brian says, hey, Randy, whatever the guy's name is, tell us how things are going. Oh, things are great, And what did you do different than last year? Well, I just did the same thing. I really stuck to making my appointments and qualifying people and getting out there. And Brian says, well, last year, you told everybody how to make the sales, to take a hammer and a piece of glass in front of everybody and smash the hammer on the glass so they could see it. Why are you still miles ahead of everybody else in sales? And Randy goes, well, this year I started giving them the hammer. Interesting. So props can really, really work. Now you might be going, Dom, what are you talking about? How am I going to use props in the solar industry? How am I going to use props if I sell roofing or home painting or slab jacking or, basement mold remediation? There are props you can use. Props are pictures, short videos, a pitch book, actually physically holding the product, right? So if you do basement mold remediation, is there something you apply to the foundation of the building? Well, why don't you have an example of that? An example of good coverings and an example of bad coverings, right? If you're using an elastomeric covering, I don't know what an elastomeric covering is. Actually, I do because I had a couple painting companies. But as a homeowner, I don't know what an elastomeric covering is. Show me what elastomeric looks like and feels like on just a piece of wood, and then on maybe a cheap or just a base paint on another piece of wood, and let me understand how your stuff looks, how it feels, right? So if you sell solar panels, bring some equipment that's solar panels. Bring a couple pieces of wire and say, these are the wires that are going to be used. This is what it looks like. I want you to feel it, touch it. This is what the battery looks like. The battery's going to be about as heavy as, I don't know, let's take everything out of your fridge and put it in a pile and try to lift it up. So we're going to need a solid subsurface floor to put that on. You just have to have your props handy. Simple props, usable props you can carry with you all of the time. I know that one of the props that I used when I was selling painting services, I had a little kit. And it's the kind of kit that is about the size of when you go to the grocery store and they have the basket at the front. So I had a kit like that. It was actually a plastic basket that I bought from the dollar store. And in there, I had a little bit of primer, a brush, a scraper, some acetone, other types of chemicals that I'd use to clean off the home. And as we walked around and did the tour, I said, here, let me show you. See where the paint is flaking away from the home right here? That's because it wasn't prepared properly. This is what we're going to do. And so I'd take the scraper and I'd scrape it. And then I'd sand it. And then I'd say, okay, now we're going to apply a little bit of primer. And so that primer is going to dry, but you can see where the smooth edges, or the rough edges have now been smooth. Now we're going to apply the top coat. Obviously, I don't do a piece this big. I do a little piece that big so that their home doesn't look bad. But now they can actually see me working on their home, and they understand, oh my gosh, he found that one little bubble. Those bubbles are all over the place on all 4 sides of the house. He's our guy. And so that's what you want to do. Presenting is really about showing your best effort on how you're going to help these people. Okay? All right, did I hit everything here? Yes, I did. I hit it all. One of the most important things I want you to take away from this is that using the 7-step sales process allows you to remove the randomness from sales. Sales is not checkers, it's chess. There's a lot of thinking that goes into it. But once you get that, once you start to understand the pieces, it's very easy to move them around. Watching videos like this, reading books about sales, and being a professional in what you do will help you to be a better contractor. It'll help you to help more people. And that's really the key here. We're proud of what we do, proud of our skills, proud of our crew, and we want to help a ton of people. Thanks very much for checking in. Thanks again to HES for sponsoring this series. I look forward to having you in the comments here. What's the biggest takeaway you got from today's training session? Do you ask the kind of questions we were talking about here? And specifically, how many of you do the tour? How many of you sit down and do the tour? Leave the comments here below. Thanks very much. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.